Okay, we are live. Hello, everyone. Thursday afternoon. Hope everyone's doing all right. And thanks for joining us here. I'm joined by Theresa Walther. She's managing director for Progedo. Progedo has offices all over Germany, and they're helping with relocation and visas for internationals coming to Germany. So I'm going to go ahead and bring Theresa in here on a split screen. Okay, Theresa, you are live. How are you doing?
Hello.
How are you doing?
Yeah, thanks for having me. So I'm happy to answer some questions, so bring them up.
Okay, great. Do you want to say anything real quick first about your company, what you're doing right now, anything special that you're working on before we get started? It looks like there's about 5 people here right now. A couple of people just left, so we can totally take it easy and maybe a couple more people will join in a few minutes.
All right, sure. So I think how you summarized it was like on the point. We do support any kind of immigration and relocation cases, so to speak, mainly to Germany. We do some business visa and transfer, so international transfer, global mobility cases too. And yeah, the company exists since quite some time, so more than 25 years.
Wow.
And yeah, I'm with them since 8 years, I think. So I've seen quite a few things already.
Okay. And you're in Hamburg?
Sorry?
And you're in Hamburg? Is that right?
Yes, we do have an office in Hamburg. So I am in our Berlin office. And yeah, we have other ones in Munich, Stuttgart, Köln, Bonn. So yeah, like all the bigger cities in Germany.
Super. Okay. I'm going to make sure here everyone can hear you with the audio. I'm going to write a quick note.
So I can also use a headset if you want to. So
okay. Yeah, let me just get a reply real fast. Okay. Yes, you're being heard. All right.
Okay. Nice.
Okay. So, and as everyone heard, depending on where you're going into Germany, whether it's north, south, east, west, Theresa probably has an office somewhere for you. So it's got a good presence in Germany, not to worry. And I will go ahead and start with some of your questions that you wrote beforehand. And yeah, it looks like a few more people joined, so that's good. And yeah, if you hear your question, great. Otherwise, there's probably going to be a few questions from people that aren't here. So I'll start it off. Christina, you asked, when will the new citizenship law come into effect? And actually, I have a second part to that question. Is it already active? I just read this morning that might be the case, but Theresa, I'll let you answer it fully. From Christina, and a lot of people wondering, I know, when will the new citizenship law come into effect?
Yeah, sure. So that wasn't clear for quite some time, but 2 days ago it was published in the official newspaper from the government. And from that day, so the 26th, exactly 3 months later, the law itself is like active. So end of June. So when you more or less think about 1st of July, maybe that's easier to remember. And I know from several foreigners departments or town halls, whoever takes over the needed processes here, that they prepare already. So they do not give out appointments at the moment, and they only schedule appointments for after July 1st. So that the new regulation comes in place, because there's one huge changing. I mean, also the application time changed. So from 8 years to 5, that's quite an advantage. But also that you can keep your citizenship. So till now, only from a few countries where the government is not letting out the people out of their citizenship, like Brazil or Iran or countries like that. These people could keep their citizenship, and all the others were requested to give it up, like the former one. And now that is, in my opinion, the modern approach and the more realistic way to do it, to allow people to have several citizenships. And that will change, but only when the law is like in place and activated, so to speak.
Okay. So coming after July, there's going to be selected countries. You can totally have 2 passports. Moving forward, it's going to be a bit easier for a large crowd to have 2 passports.
For everyone.
And
for everyone then.
For everyone. Okay. So everyone take note of that. After, in a couple months, it's going to be a lot easier to have dual passports.
Yes.
Okay, super. I'll read the next question. There are some questions coming in on the chat as well. We'll get to those at the end. There's only 10 or so questions here from the email, so we can totally get to some of these chat questions at the end. As Stephen is wondering about how come when you have a visa, every year you have to renew it, even when you have a permanent job? And second part of that, is there any hope to grant permanent residence right when you get your permanent job?
Okay, so that's 2 different questions. The first is, I have no idea what kind of visa or residence title he has or he is referring to, because normally when you have a permanent contract, you get at least 3 years or even 4. If a contract is limited, then of course, so let's say for 2 years or for 1 year, then of course you get the time frame the contract lasts as well for your residence title, because every residence title is based on a reason, and when the reason is employment, then of course the duration of the work contract is the basis as well. So it's hard for me to answer that question really properly, because I don't know the case. I can just tell you from experience how it is in general. So could be that maybe his passport was not valid for a longer time frame, because every residence title is also connected to a passport, and when your passport is only, let's say, valid for 8 more months, then you only get the residence title for 8 months and not for the 4 years, even if your contract is permanent. And then the question about the permanent residence title, you can get such a residence title as a so-called Fachkraft, so like a specialist worker or well-educated one, after 48 months, so 4 years. And when you have a specific residence title for employment reasons, a so-called blue card, you already can apply after 27 months, and with German knowledge B1 after 21 months, so less than 2 years. We support such cases as well. So I think it's a good idea to go this way, because then you need to only show up once when you interview for the permanent residency, and after that, never again at the foreigners department. So it really makes sense.
Gotcha. Okay. So blue card leaves one a little bit more flexible, more options for sure with the visa. So that's a higher status type of visa. And as your first part of your answer with regards to the permanent contract, one should always keep in mind the duration for their visa first. So I know, and everyone knows, and that's why the question was, it depends on when you need to renew your visa. So I think the question, and maybe I misinterpreted your answer. So what happens when an employer says you have a permanent contract, no limits, but the visa office says, but you still have to renew your visa in 1 year? Why is that? I think that's maybe where the question was coming from.
Yeah. So again, the only other reason I can think about is a shorter duration of the passport.
Yes.
Because it's not the case that a clerk can, out of the blue, decide a duration is shorter. So there is a law, and I mean, a lot of things maybe are not perfect in Germany, but when it comes to administration and authorities, they kind of stick to the rules. So the only reason I can think of is an like external reason. But I mean, maybe it's interesting to ask. What was Stephen who asked the question?
Yes, I believe so. Stephen.
So maybe he could elaborate that a bit.
Okay. Yeah, Stephen, if you're in the chat, you can totally put a little bit more on your question there. But yeah, it makes sense, Theresa. If someone has something like a passport that could be being renewed, it makes sense from the government side if they want to check in on people once a year, make sure that all the data is correct, and then move forward from there. So
exactly.
Okay, next question. Raghu wrote, she's wondering about what is the 18-month visa? And I'm also curious about that. Which visa is that?
Yeah. So again, here, the duration is based on the reason and the reason you can show for obtaining a residence title or visa. A fixed period of 18 months is for a job-seeking visa when you have successfully received a German degree. So you are also allowed to work with this one. It's behind paragraph 20. There are all the job-seeking ones hidden in the German immigration law, and this is for 18 months. Yeah.
Okay.
So maybe that one. A few working holiday agreements are also come with a duration of 18 months. So we have quite a few. These are bilateral agreements between other countries and Germany. And you have some for just 1 year. So I know that, for example, Israel has this agreement and you can get one for 1 year. But then you can also, when you're from Australia or Canada, also, yeah, I mean, all over the world, countries have these agreements with Germany, and there are also agreements up to 18 months.
Totally.
Maybe that.
Yeah, and I've heard of the job seeker visa, of course, one of the most popular ones, and people just graduating. Now that's big. You get 18 months to look for work in Germany on a job seeker visa. So I've spoken with a number of people I know that are going for that, and that's great for both sides, both the government and the job seeker.
Yes, and you have a lot of freedom with this one, yeah, because you can change jobs every week, you can do whatever you want, and really use the time to figure out how or if or whatever you want to start your career in Germany. So really good one, yeah.
Totally. Okay, so Sam is wondering about how does it work for non-skilled workers trying to get a visa right now?
Favorite answer, that depends. So again here, when you have another reason and can prove this reason, then of course it makes sense to base on that. So maybe a marriage, or you want to do a language course, that could be the basis as well. If you want to go for a professional visa, so like a visa is based on your profession and your work, then maybe your work experience can count. So you need to work in a specific field or in a profession for 3 years in a time frame of 7 years. And then you can get one. And there's always a combination of the immigration law I mentioned earlier and a specific work law for foreigners in Germany. And as I said, it really depends. So let's say you're an artist, or you work in a specific IT field, then there's in each where it's another paragraph, or you're a chef in a restaurant or whatever. So that really depends, and then you would try to find a good equivalent in this work law for foreigners in Germany.
Okay. So how about, say, a farmer? If they're coming to, say, a dairy farmer, some type of land farmer, how does that work for someone coming into Germany from another country? Like you said, I know recently they did away with the education requirements for non-skilled workers, so now you just need 3 years work experience. Is that the same in that case?
Yes, could be. Yeah. So, I mean, again, here, I can only answer this based on experience and like in an overall approach or way. Yeah, could be. So if that person is able to show, hey, I've really reasonable experience in that field and in that position as a farmer, and I can prove it with whatever letters of recommendation or some kind of certificates, then that could work. Yes.
Okay, gotcha. Charles is wondering about when you lose your job and your permit is tied to only one company, what happens? And if you can, even though you're not the big government, why is that the case?
So again, here it depends on what you had before. So we talked about this blue card and quite a lot cases. So that changed as well a bit. Also, you can get a blue card based on experience, so based on work experience, but mainly you get a visa or a residence title for employment reasons based on an accepted degree in Germany. And when you have such an accepted degree, you can also get a job seeking visa.
Mm-hmm.
And this is then for up to 6 months. So you have a residence title, which is valid for 2 years still. You lose your job or you quit yourself, then if that one is based on an accepted degree, then you have the 6 months included in this one, because you could get a job seeking one for 6 months, and for not letting you come there every time, they say, okay, it's important that you inform the foreigners department, but often they say, okay, we will have a look at your case in 6 months again. Or maybe when you find something before, you need to contact them anyways again. And then it's maybe shorter than 6 months. But so from my point of view, that's quite fair, because I mean, even if the situation in some fields is not the best at the moment, 6 months when you are in Germany already and you know you got the permission once, so the chances you get again the permission to work is quite high. 6 months is a reasonable time frame, in my opinion.
Agreed. Yeah, agreed there. So Charles, hopefully that answered your question. Sharera is wondering about what is a visa metric appointment?
So worldwide, there are embassies and consulates, and not all of them have visa departments. So they ask third parties, like agencies, private providers, to take over their visa processes. And in different countries, that's called a bit different. And one of them is visa metric. And you have then a so-called VDEX form, which is the application form to receive your visa in the end. And on that one is a barcode, which you need for the interview and so on. So they really try to be more digital. So the Ministry of Foreign Affairs tries that, and that's their way to do it. So it's the short answer is that's the visa application appointment.
Okay. So it's a private company and it depends on certain countries that they're working with. And this is just to facilitate a more digital process for Ausländer, foreign people.
And of course it's it's certified and everything. Yeah, it's like it's an official provider. So it's not something strange.
Right. Okay. Interesting. I learned that as well. Shora, hopefully that answered your question. And a few more questions here, and then we'll get to the chat. Vidor is wondering about the current crisis in Ukraine and other wars. Do you see any of these crises negatively affecting the progress for immigration laws into Germany?
So, I'm sorry. So it's not affecting the law because such a process, everyone knows, governmental processes takes a moment. So that's not the case, but the procedure itself. So, for example, before Russia started the war with Ukraine, all over Russia, they've been different embassies and consulates where someone could apply. With the beginning of the war, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs decided to only take visa applications in the capital, so in Moscow. So they closed all the other visa centers. And of course, the result is that you need to wait forever to get an appointment with this only one embassy.
Yeah.
So this is something, which is a problem. Or when you think about the explosion happens in the harbor in Beirut a few years ago. I don't know if you remember that, but the German embassy was more or less destroyed with that explosion because it was near there. And they needed to rebuild the building, and they had some like containers to cover that period of time when the building is rebuilt. So of course there were 3 or 4 months when no appointments were happening. That caused a backlog, of course. So then the waiting time is longer again. Things like that. Same with whatever refugee crisis in countries in the Middle East based on some wars and conflicts, inner country conflicts. All the embassies and consulates in Afghanistan are closed. So all these people need to go to Pakistan, and Islamabad is quite requested appointment-wise. So the waiting time is going up here too. These are examples, and I think shows pretty good how international events and problems and crises and so on affect these processes.
Totally, yeah. And you can't control everything. So there could be a number of things going on around Germany, and it's just part of us evolving, and there always has been throughout history. So, and there's always been effects.
Yeah, and I mean, these days, we nearly have forgotten that, but we're just post-pandemic, and some countries, they close all the official buildings and institutions and also foreign embassies, like then the German embassy, they closed them for months. So in Brazil, for example, the embassy was nearly 1.5 years closed. And you need to think about all the appointments scheduled in that time, which need to, be held now. And for example, Shanghai, you wait nearly a year to get an appointment because for such a long time that house was closed, and all the appointments waiting, of course, they're first. And when you apply for one now, that could take quite some time. Yeah,
that's right. Okay, Ananjan is wondering about foreign people graduating in Germany. For example, when they get their master's, is there any hope for benefits such as free German classes?
Yes, do that at the university. That's for free. No, but nothing in addition. So not from the foreigners department planned or from the cities, no. But I know from my own experience that you can do language courses with the language departments at universities in Germany. And this is like a normal course, so it's for free.
Okay.
Of course, you need to be enrolled.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. So when you're in university, try to take advantage of the time that you're there, the resources for getting into free German classes. And maybe in the future, I'm just thinking, maybe someone is too busy with their major. It doesn't necessarily involve German classes, or they don't have time. And, then they graduate, and then it turns out that all the employers are asking them for C1 German. So, but still, maybe fit it in night classes or what have you. But yeah, I think that's where the question's coming from. Maybe in the future, maybe there could be something with free German classes for master's graduates only from Germany. What do you think?
So I think it's for everyone who's enrolled. And I know that a lot of universities have these buddy programs. So I think the international offices should inform about that. But you can find like a German fellow student and then do a match and have the conversation in English and German and maybe other languages too. So I did that when I studied myself, so it's quite nice.
Yeah, so there's unstructured ways to do it. There's always, depends what you pick and choose to spend your time on. And yeah, I think we can all try to fit in a German class, especially when you're studying, just if it's really important and looking for it, then maybe it's an unstructured opportunity to make room for it.
Yeah.
Roberto, with your question that came in just a few minutes ago, what is the best way to validate my degree? Should I have it already translated and validated before I search for jobs? Or can I wait for this until after I have my offer?
Yeah. So I think to speed up the process, it makes sense to do that beforehand. So then you have everything already in place. But I know from some companies, so the employer side, that they're willing to reimburse or cover the fee for doing this. Because, when you involve an agency like us helping you, then the service fee comes on top. But getting a degree acknowledged has a fixed fee for the government, so like a governmental fee of 200 euros. So maybe, as a student, sometimes you do not have that much money, so makes sense to ask the company for assistance or for help. But if you want to have everything in place already, then time-wise, it makes sense to do that earlier. Okay. And yes, so a translation is a good idea. So I know from experience that a lot of foreigners departments accept English translation. So when your degree is not in English already, and it's not necessarily needed that it is in German. German translations are requested for certificates like marriage certificate, birth certificate, things like that, but not for degrees. So this could be something nice to have, to have it prepared already.
Gotcha.
The English translation, I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Super helpful. And let's go to a few questions in the chat. I know you guys have been waiting, and I will read off starting from the first question here. And so there's one, Sir FK. I don't know what your full name is, but I see your question here. You used to live in Germany and you may move back from the UK. How easy is it to get a work visa right now from the UK? Again, I can anticipate it's going to be, it depends.
Yeah,
Theresa,
yeah.
depending
So I
on
would
the
start
job
with it
position.
depends. But at the moment, so we do have a few cases at the moment, and I can tell you that the embassy in London needs a moment to give out appointments. So the waiting time raised recently a bit. So this means you need to wait for an appointment like 2 to 3 months, which is more or less a lot. And then, of course, the basis counts. So do you have a concrete job offer? Do you have a valid contract? What is the background here? And when it comes to the interview and you can show all proper documents, then you should have the visa 2 to 3 weeks after the appointment in your hands. So this is more fast then.
Okay. All right. So London, a bit backlogged, but not too bad. FK, hopefully that was helpful. And Manish is wondering in the chat about the fact that he has a 5-year business visa. Can you use this to come to Germany and look for jobs? I'm just thinking after I read it out loud, which kind of business visa?
There's business trips, I guess.
Maybe Manish can write in the chat. Manish, a little bit more there, context, and Theresa, unless you understand better.
Yeah, so I can assume what he means. So there's a multi-entry business visa category, and you get it for the whole Schengen area. Germany is part of the Schengen zone, and you can travel freely within the Schengen area. 90 days within a time frame of 180 days. So you step into the Schengen area, that's day one. You have a stamp in your passport who can tell everyone, and especially border police. So this is day one, and then you have a time frame of 180 days. And in this time frame, you're allowed to be here for 90 days. So you can, of course, because it's legal to stay here, you can also have job interviews and talk to companies and talk to recruiters. No one can say that's not okay. So yes, technically that's possible, but you need to enter the country then with a correct visa, which is a national one. It's a different type. It's type D, and a business visa is type C. So you need to enter the country then with a different visa afterwards when you, luckily maybe, got the job offer.
Okay. Okay, Manish, hopefully that was helpful. Depends on the type of visa, and specifically type D visa instead of type C visa is going to be better for you. And Logan is wondering about the possibility of having 2 citizenships. So back to one of the first questions that we had earlier. Is it possible to retroactively apply for one original citizenship one had to renounce previously in order to obtain German citizenship?
Yeah, that's actually a question we get a lot these days. And I think it's pretty fair, because why shouldn't you have several citizenships? That is a question which is like half answered by the company of origin, because if they are willing to give you back your former citizenship, is not the decision of Germany, of course. You won't lose the German one after July 1st. So we discussed it in the beginning. I mean, strictly speaking, it's the 26th of June, but to have, it easier to remember it, I would say July 1st. So in summer, you can try to apply for that and get back your citizenship of origin without giving up the German one.
Okay, super important. Because not only is it going to get easier for everyone after July 1st, but for people who already had to renounce their other citizenship. Now, Logan, good question. You can apply to get it back with your own country after that time as well. It's possible. So that's good. Okay, so Gianni in the chat is wondering about, and we just have a few more questions. And so Gianni is wondering about the new law after living 5 years in Germany, the law regarding applying for German citizenship. Okay, we answered this earlier, but is it in practice now? What are the requirements? And is there anything special about applying as a dual citizen from India? So maybe the last part is new, and the first part, maybe just a quick review of what we talked about earlier.
Yeah, so application from June 26th, so, or maybe summer, July 1st, around this time, and then at the city or district or commune or whatever where you are registered with your address, and more or less all the requirements stay the same. So you need to show B1, you need to show a past naturalization test, which is 33 questions out of 600, and you can practice them beforehand, of course. You get these 33 questions and it counts as passed when you have 17 correct answers. And then, of course, you need to show with the extract from the pension insurance database that you've been here for the requested amount of time, which is 5 years with the new law.
Okay. Cool. All right, Gianni, hopefully that was helpful. And I see your second part question here with PR Niederlassungserlaubnis. Can I also work short-term in other EU countries?
A residence title from Germany is a residence title from Germany, so you can use it as a visa to enter other EU member states and apply there for a residence title in that country. So we have no institution on EU level handing out residence titles. So immigration law and immigration in general is more or less a personal thing of that country. So yeah, they decide on their own, and more or less they have similar residence titles, but they also have different ones. So I know a few in France or a few in Spain or in Austria, and they tried to more or less implement the EU directives to national law, but not necessarily exact like Germany did it. So it's a bit different and you need to reapply.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that's good to know in general, I think, for everyone. And yeah, one last part Gianni had, and I think I know the answer to this as well. Short one, but Arbeitslosengeld, if you receive that at any time, does it impact when you're applying for your citizenship if you're not working? I believe that's yes, but Theresa, maybe you can say just a quick note on that.
Yeah, so we have two different types. We have type 1 and type 2. type 2 has a bit different name. It's called Bürgergeld, so it's more like, yeah, social benefits, so to say. But type 1, you have the right to receive it when you at least worked here for 12 months in a row. Then you have the right to receive that. And this has no negative impact on any later application, because it's your right to get it. Yeah, you paid taxes, you paid into the unemployment insurance. This is part of the social security system in Germany. It is your right to receive it.
Okay.
Important is here that you need to pay attention on how long you're allowed to be job seeking, what we had earlier. So when you have 6 months allowed job seeking, because you had a blue card before, then of course you're allowed to receive these 6 months, the unemployment at type 1.
Okay, that makes sense. And how about, is it the same for permanent residents as well? When you're applying for permanent residence?
Sure, but when you have a permanent residency, you can use the full amount of time. So it's up to 12 months of this Arbeitslosengeld type 1, so this unemployment ad. And as you have a permanent residency, so you're allowed to stay here forever, you can also use the 12 months. So even easier then, and gives you more time to find a new job. Yeah, maybe a one which suits you better. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. How about if you don't have permanent residence yet, but you're applying for it, and then you have to take Arbeitslosengeld?
So a permanent residency is not handed out, in my experience, during your probation period or during a time frame when you have no employment.
Okay.
So they only give it to you when you're out of probation and with a fixed job.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. And so Ashk is wondering in the chat, back to master's graduates in Germany, when they have a job seeking visa that's expiring soon, what are some options for staying further? And what do you suggest to these types of people? I know that there's such things as coding boot camps and perhaps language visa courses, but Theresa, what options are there on the table for someone who has a job seeker visa and it's expiring soon?
There are not so many options, to be honest, because the German government and also the Foreigners Department, they think, hey, 18 months, that's quite some time. Why you haven't found a job on which you can base a new application? Because that's the intention of this residence title, yeah? Give you 18 months, you can try out some positions, different workplaces, whatever, to then switch it in the end to a residence title for employment reasons. You can change the basis completely, yeah, to language course, for example, to studying again. But besides that, difficult. I would highly suggest to find a job where the application can be based on, to be honest. And funny thing is, I do have such a case at the moment, and this is what I suggested. Of course, you can also try to, when it comes to this coding camp, to get like a traineeship residence title, or if it counts as an educational project, I don't know. You can try to base this on that, but not so easy, because you need to show that you can finance your daily life, and therefore you need to have some savings or income, some kind of support. So it's not that easy. And the job seeking one is not able to extend. So 18 months is the highest number of months you get on these paragraph.
Okay. Okay, super helpful. Good information there. And yeah, just a few more questions. And Theresa, thank you so much for your time. This is super valuable. I know I speak on behalf of everyone. And if it's still okay by you, we can stick around for another 10, 15 minutes.
Sure.
And there's just a couple more questions. And some people are saying thank you. Logan says thank you in the chat. And let's see. FK had one additional part of his question. Are you checking companies that, or let's see here, how to phrase this. Okay. Should people always check that companies are sponsoring visas, essentially? Should that be done by the job seeker, or is it a requirement, I guess, for the company to let the job seeker know that?
That's a personal opinion, but I can share mine. So I definitely think companies should do that, because when they do not ensure that someone has a valid work permit and residence title, this is illegal work, and then they do have a problem as well. So I really think it's their role as well to make sure everything is fine. This is what I would do with my company, and this is also what I suggest to the companies we work with. And if an applicant can have an eye on that, I think that makes sense. And of course, working together with an agency like ours, which is well experienced, guarantees a bit that that person can start on time, that everything is in order. This should be also in the interest of the employer, from my point of view.
Mm-hmm. Totally agree there. And I think we just have one more question. And then I have a personal question as well that I was thinking of as we were going. And so I think actually this last part from Damla, you may have answered a bit earlier, but for Niederlassungserlaubnis, do you require the naturalization test, the German test?
No, that's a different one. So the one which is required for the permanent residency is called Leben in Deutschland, so living in Germany. It's really an integration test. Some basic language knowledge is asked here, really basic questions. When you go for the citizenship, then you really need to know crazy things. So let's say, maybe I have an example. In which direction the eagle is looking, for example. Maybe you know that. I know it now. It's to the right. No one knows that. If you would go to a high school in Germany, I'm pretty sure half of the German people would answer that wrong. Also, historic questions, a lot about the elections, about the political system, about the values, and so on. So it's more specialized and more deep, I would say. And the other one, this integration course, is more language orientated. So it is different.
Okay, super. Damla, hopefully that answered your question there. And my last question was that actually I just realized we answered this. So this came up during the chat. So we're all good. My question was also about, for people who are on a time clock about their visa, what are your best suggestions about which route to go? We talked about that earlier. Everyone who's listening still, looks like there's still about 7 people here, but limited options, although there are certain camps or language courses that you can do. You can also, of course, get together with someone more official, like a lawyer, discuss your options. That's probably better than taking it from me. But yeah, Theresa is more knowledgeable on that as well. She shared some ideas in routes to go. Maybe you want to give one last reminder on that, but otherwise we can move on to any last stories that you have, Theresa, about things that have happened lately, any cases that you find common that you want to share.
Yeah, so I thought about that too, and I think I would love to share two learnings I had in the past. So first is try to be ahead of time. Even if not all documents are together, if something is missing, try to apply for everything as early as possible, because authorities, embassies, and so on, they're so slow. They do not have enough people. They have huge backlogs based on different reasons. And to say, hey, I requested this 3 months ago, makes a way better impression than saying, hey, I handed in my application 2 days before my visa expired. So this punctual thing is quite important in Germany. So I would suggest this. And second part is, maybe that's not for everyone, but for those who need that, it's pretty important. And this is family reunion. So when you bring your family, if it's your spouse or even with children, do that together, because when you go for study reasons or when you go for employment mainly, there's no need to wait for the approval from the Foreigners Department of Destination. When they do not answer within 2 weeks, the case counts as approved. And then also the family gets the visa at the same time. But if they do that on their own, let's say an employee starts in Germany and then wants to bring her spouse or family later on, they need the approval from the Foreigners Department of Destination. And this could take, I know that for Pakistan, for example, or also for other countries, up to a year. And imagine that, yeah, being apart from your family for such a long time, it really makes sense to get the application in at the same time. So maybe these two learnings to keep in mind.
Mm-hmm. Get the documents together, get them together early, bring your family around, get everyone involved, go to the office together, be proactive about it, and don't wait till the last minute.
Yes, and I think it's important to understand how the law works. So it is about the reason. Yeah, tell the truth, but tell a good story. Why and how can you prove your reason? Whatever it is, if it's marriage, if it's studies, if it's employment or language course, show it, and then there shouldn't be any problem.
Super. Great. Thank you so much, Theresa, and really appreciate your time. And there is one last question that came in, so I'll ask you. But this has been amazing. You've been super good with questions on the fly, and this is super valuable information for everyone. There's a lot of hearts coming in, and thank yous. So thank you again. FK, one last question, everyone, before we close this out, is about hybrid jobs based in 2 countries. How does that work for the visa? Say you're working in the UK for a few days, you go back to Germany. What does that look like? Have you heard of such a thing?
Yeah. That's a bit special. So you need to decide for like one main country, which could be UK in this example. Then you get a residence title from that country when you're not from there. And then with UK, it's the case that you can be transferred on a project base to Germany, or if it's enough and you only have meetings, then the before mentioned business visa could be an option. When it is a neighboring country of Germany, then you can get a so-called cross-border card. So let's say you're based in Amsterdam and have your main employment contract there. You get a residence title from the Netherlands, but then you need to visit the German office, let's say 2 days a week, and you need to be allowed to work there as well without paying into the social security system, because you're doing that already in the Netherlands. Then you can get a so-called cross-border card, crossing border card, whatever. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I learned a lot new today as well, and just learned about the cross-border card. That was great, Theresa. Thank you so much again.
Thank you.
Everyone, we answered everyone's questions in the chat. There's still a few people sticking around. So thank you so much for sticking around today. Ton of good information that was shared, and this will be on the YouTube channel afterwards. So Theresa, thank you so much again, and
Sure.
have a great rest of your day.
You too. Thank you. Bye.
All right. Bye, everyone.